Hey everyone, welcome back to Mrs. Books and Dog, where I spend hours reading books and watching documentaries so you know what's actually worth your time. Today, we are diving into Netflix's newest true crime documentary, Maternal Instinct. Many people are talking about this in social media, so I got really curious and I just thought, okay, why not I just go and give it a shot? And I did. Now, I have watched my fair share of documentaries: serial killer, scammers, cult leaders, con artists, but every once in a while, a documentary comes along that doesn't just shock you, it unsettles you. Because this isn't about a mysterious stranger, it's about someone who spent months pretending to live a life that never existed. And somehow, almost everyone believed her. So, let's talk about it. Before we start, quick warning: this documentary deals with pregnancy, infant loss, violence, and murder. It's emotionally heavy. If those topics are difficult for you, you may want to skip this one. At first, maternal instinct doesn't rush into the crime. Instead, it introduces you to Taylor Parker, a woman who desperately wanted people to believe she was pregnant. And that's what fascinated and horrified me because what the hell? Netflix doesn't represent her or present her as a monster from the very beginning. Instead, it slowly shows how one lie turns into another: a fake ultrasound, a fake baby bump, social media updates, messages to friends, shopping for baby clothes, gender reveals, doctor appointments that never happened. Like, the deeper you go, the more you realize this isn't or wasn't one impulsive decision. This was an entire fictional life. And that's what made me pause the documentary more than once. Trust me, like I really paused it like more than 5 times. And it was not because I was confused. It was because I couldn't understand how someone could keep a lie alive for so long. So freaking long. Once I was done watching this documentary, I had these two questions that stayed with me long after the credit rolled. Question one: how did Taylor Parker convince everyone that she was pregnant? Because this is the part that fascinated me the most. Because none of us just wake up in the morning and then suddenly decide that to believe something which is just impossible. Trust isn't built at once, right? And we are aware about it. It builds one small moment at a time. And according to the documentary, Taylor didn't just tell people she was pregnant, she built an entire world around that lie. There were updates, baby conversations, shopping trips, photos, medical appointments, future plans. Every detail reinforced the last one. And that's exactly how deception works. Not the one unbelievable story, but with hundred of believable ones. While watching, to be very honest, I kept thinking, if someone I care about showed me all of this, would I question it? And honestly, I don't know if I would. And maybe that's what makes this story so frightening. It forces us to admit that trust can sometimes become our biggest blind spot. Question two: what happened when the lies could no longer continue? This is where the documentary becomes incredibly difficult to watch because every lie has an expiry date. Eventually, someone asks a question, someone wants proof, and the reality catches up. And in Taylor's case, that pressure appears to have become overwhelming. And I won't able to describe, or I literally won't describe every detail of the crime because I think Netflix tells that part respectfully. What I will say is this: an innocent family paid the ultimate prize. And that's the moment the documentary stop being about deception and it becomes more about irreversible consequences. Because one decision, one victim, countless life permanently changed. Sometimes true crimes become so focused on the criminal that we almost forget who suffered the most. But in maternal instinct, it keeps bringing us back to the people whose life was shattered. And I really appreciate for doing it because they are the reason this story deserved to be remembered. Not the headline, not the killer, the victim. There was one realization that genuinely stayed with me. This wasn't a story about gigantic lie. It was a story about hundred of tiny, tiny lies that slowly became impossible to escape. And that's something I think applies far beyond this case. Most deception doesn't become or begin dramatically. It begins quietly. One excuse, one omission, one story, and then another. Until eventually the person telling the lies become trapped inside them. That's what I found so haunting about this documentary. If you're expecting fast paced entertainment, probably not. This documentary asks you to pay attention, to listen, to connect the pieces yourself. It's slower than many true crime documentaries, but I think that's intentional because real investigators aren't edited for suspense. They unfold slowly, one clue at a time, and maternal instinct respect that process. If you I'm not going to end this video by saying this gets an 8 out of 10 because honestly, that doesn't feel right. Some documentaries aren't meant to entertain, they are meant you make you think, and this is the one. I finished Maternal Instinct feeling disturbed. Not because of how shocking the crime was, but because of how ordinary the deception looked. The lies weren't unbelievable, they were believable enough that people accepted them. And that's what frightened me the most because every documentary, it just tells you something and it it just told you so many stuff in this one documentary. So yes, it was literally quite disturbing. And every documentary I watch always leaves me this one question. And with this documentary, there's this one question that kind of left me with. It was, at what time does protecting a lie becomes more important than protecting another human? Was it the first fake pregnancy update, or was it the first fake ultrasound, or had the line already been crossed long before anyone realized? Um, I would love to know what you think, not just about the documentary, but obviously about the question. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to Mrs. Books and Talk because next week we will be driving into another story that's impossible to forget. Until then, take care. Bye.